I will lift up my eyes to the hills, from where comes my help. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Psalm 121. There are mornings when the weight of the world feels too much to carry. When your chest feels tight, your thoughts are heavy, and your strength is thin. You open your eyes, and instead of relief, you feel resistance. The day ahead looks bigger than your capacity. It's in moments like that the ancient cry of Psalm 121 still echoes, I will lift up my eyes to the hills. It's not a poetic line, it's a decision, a deliberate act of defiance against despair. The psalmist doesn't deny the existence of trouble, he simply decides where to look. And that's where this morning begins, not by pretending everything is fine, but by shifting your focus to the one who holds everything together. When David wrote these words, he was a traveler ascending toward Jerusalem, climbing hills that symbolize both the journey and the struggle. Each step reminded him of danger, exhaustion, and uncertainty. The hills were both a challenge and a revelation. That's life, isn't it? The very place that tests you also teaches you. The climb reveals your weakness, but it also reveals your source. From where comes my help, he asks. It's not a rhetorical question, it's an awakening. When you've reached the end of your own ability, that's when you finally look up. And maybe that's where you are today, climbing your own hill. Maybe it's financial pressure that keeps you awake at night. Maybe it's family tension you can't fix. Maybe it's emotional fatigue that drains you even in silence. Maybe it's fear of what's next, the uncertainty of your future. The instability of the world, whatever your hill looks like, and the question is the same. Where do you look for help? Because help determines hope. If you look to people, they'll disappoint you. If you look to money, it will move. If you look to yourself, you'll eventually run dry. But if you lift your eyes to the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth, you'll never be without strength. Let's pray. Lord, this morning, I lift my eyes beyond my problems, beyond my emotions, beyond my limits. I look to you. You are my help, my keeper, my guide. You are not far away or distracted by the chaos of this world. You are present, personal, and powerful. Today, I choose to depend on you. Not because I have no strength left, but because your strength is greater than mine. Be my stability when everything shifts. Be my shield when fear attacks. Be my helper when I feel helpless. David didn't say, my help might come. He said, my help comes from the Lord. That's present tense, active, continuous. God's help isn't seasonal, it's constant. He doesn't clock out when the sun sets. He doesn't take weekends off. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. That line alone should make your spirit rest. God doesn't fall asleep on duty. He doesn't miss details. He doesn't grow weary like we do. You may rest, but he keeps watch. You may feel unseen, but you are never unguarded. The Psalm says, he who keeps you will not slumber. That means God is alert while you're anxious. He's working while you're worrying. The things that steal your sleep never steal his sovereignty. He watches not as a distant observer, but as a devoted protector. You might say, but if he's watching, why does life still hurt? Because protection doesn't mean absence of pressure. It means presence of purpose. Sometimes God doesn't remove the battle, he reinforces you within it. Sometimes he doesn't take away the storm. He teaches you to walk on water through it. We live in a world obsessed with control. And yet, control is the very illusion that keeps us restless. You don't need control. You need confidence. Confidence that the one who made the mountains is not intimidated by the climb. Confidence that the God who formed the oceans is not overwhelmed by your waves. Confidence that even when you can't trace his hand, you can trust his heart. That's where peace begins. Not in the absence of danger, but in the awareness of divine oversight. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. In other words, his care is not collective, it's personal. The God who governs galaxies also guards your heart. The same creator who sets the stars in motion watches your every step. You are not forgotten in the crowd. You are remembered in detail. That's the kind of protection. Psalm 121 speaks of not just safety from physical harm, but spiritual stability in a shaking world. So when you feel overwhelmed, don't collapse, lift. Lift your head. Lift your voice. Lift your expectations. The moment you lift your gaze, perspective shifts. You begin to realize that the hills are not obstacles, they're reminders. The very height of your struggle points to the height of your help. Every time you look up, if you're reminded the same God who raised the mountains will raise you too. And listen to this. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. Shade implique présence. Proximity, protection from what burns too long. It's a picture of comfort in exposure. Maybe you've been standing in the heat of constant pressure, burned by stress, expectations, and criticism. God says, I am your shade. That means he shields your mind from the intensity of worry. He covers your heart from emotional exhaustion. He gives you peace in the middle of your heat. You're not standing alone in the sun, you're standing under the shelter of his presence. And then the psalm says, the sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. This is poetic, but it's also prophetic. The day represents visible challenges, the things everyone can see. The moon represents hidden battles, the things you fight in silence. God says, I will protect you in both, the visible and the invisible, the public and the private, the outer storms and the inner struggles. Some of your fiercest battles aren't physical, they're mental. They happen in quiet moments, behind smiles, under responsibility. But even there, his covering remains. That's what divine protection means. It's total. It covers the seen and unseen. It watches when you're awake and when you're weary. It follows you into rooms you didn't know you'd enter, through seasons you didn't choose. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. Notice how the psalm moves from the external to the internal, from your foot to your shade, to your soul. God's help goes deeper than your circumstances. It touches your core. He's not just keeping your job secure. He's keeping your joy alive. He's not just protecting your family. He's preserving your faith. And look at the last verse. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going, both now and forevermore. That's a promise of presence that outlives pressure. It means you're not protected for a moment, you're protected for a lifetime. When you walk into the unknown, he goes before you. When you step into change, he stands beside you. When you look back on your life, you'll see his fingerprints in every chapter. The things you thought were random will reveal a pattern of grace. So this morning, I want you to breathe and let that promise sink in. You don't walk alone. You don't climb alone. You don't fight alone. You are accompanied by divine help. You are surrounded by heavenly protection. Every fear that says you can't is lying to a God who already did. Say this aloud with me. My help comes from the Lord. My keeper never sleeps. My God is with me. I will not fear. Now think of your hill, the one you're climbing right now. Maybe it's a business that's struggling, a family that's breaking, a dream that's fading. See yourself standing at the bottom of it, looking up. You don't have to know how high it is. You just have to know who's climbing with you. The same power that shaped the hills will give you footing. The same hand that made the sun will guide you through shadow. The same word that called the earth into being will sustain you until you reach the top. Let's make this personal. Lord, today I lift my eyes, not in panic, but in faith. I know. You see what? I cannot. I know you guard what I cannot fix. I release control and receive confidence. Be the keeper of my mind, my family, my purpose, my future. Guard my steps. Cover my soul. Lead me safely through this season. Let my life be a living testimony of your constant help and unwavering protection. You see, of the truth of Psalm 121 is not that you'll never face trouble, it's that trouble will never face you alone. Protection doesn't mean the absence of danger. It means the assurance of deliverance. Help doesn't always change the situation. Sometimes it changes you in the situation. God's protection is not a force field around your comfort. It's a shield around your purpose. He protects you so you can fulfill what He placed you on earth to do. And that means even the delays, the detours, the disappointments, they're part of His keeping. Sometimes He protects you by preventing something. Other times He protects you by preparing you. You prayed for open doors, but He closed some because what was behind them wasn't ready, or you weren't. That's not rejection, that's protection. You prayed for speed, but He slowed you down because He knew endurance would serve you better than excitement. That's not neglect, that's nurture. If you could see how many unseen battles He's already fought for you, you'd worship differently. If you knew how many nights He's guarded you, how many accidents He prevented, how many attacks He canceled before they reached you, you'd stop doubting His care. Psalm 121 is not poetic comfort, it's a record of God's track record. He's never failed. His own. So stop measuring His faithfulness by your feelings. Feelings fluctuate, faith remains. When you don't feel strong, I remember when you don't see progress, just remember, He's working. When you don't hear answers, as remember, He's still speaking through silence. The maker of heaven and earth doesn't just help you climb. He designed the hill. He already mapped the path. He already calculated the strength you'd need. He already placed rest stops along the way. You will make it, not because you're capable, but because He's committed. So rise this morning with assurance. Lift your eyes not to the problem, but to the provider. Lift your voice not to complain, but to declare. Lift your hands, not in surrender to fear, but in submission to faith, because your help is not coming from around you, it's coming from above you. And as you step into today, I remember this truth. God's help is not seasonal, it's situational. Wherever you go, He adjusts His covering to fit your need. When you walk through fire, He's your flame shield. When you walk through water, He's your boy. When you walk through darkness, He's your light. That's not theory, that's promise. So keep climbing, keep trusting, keep lifting your eyes, because the same God who started your story will finish it. He never sleeps, never fails, never forgets. You are surrounded, protected, and held. And even when the world shakes, your keeper does not. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. That's not just a verse, it's a vow. And this morning, it's yours